Hi, Joe.
I mean, he's going to make it now, whereas before it was 50-50, but it's going to be a long road.
Okay,
It goes in the, that's a crazy district. Hamilton, Marion,
everybody ready?
part of Coffee, part of Rubber.
It is now 5 o'clock. We will begin the workshop for the January 3rd, 2013. Happy New Year, everyone. Tonight, we will begin with citizens' comments. And tonight, we have Mr. Ted Goodman. If you'll come to the podium, please.
Good evening. I'm Ted Goodman of the law firm of Murphy. We represent Gary Patel, who's the owner of the Laverne Beverage Depot, and we would request that Laverne leave in place its residency requirement, which requires that a person live in Laverne for at least 2 years before he's eligible to own a liquor store in Laverne. We think that this residency requirement is very beneficial to Laverne in a number of ways, and perhaps the most important is the accountability that it creates. You know, if you don't like something going on at your locally owned liquor store, you don't have to call some distant business owner and be put on hold only to have your voicemails never returned. You just you march right down there and you talk to the owner about it. If you don't like something Gary's doing, you can you know who to go to, where to go, and you can get your problem addressed. And furthermore, as a resident, the liquor store owner is going to conduct his business in a responsible manner toward the community. If he doesn't, if Gary doesn't do something that's a responsible business citizen, he's going to have to face his fellow citizens in the drop-off line as he's dropping his children off at school, or in the grocery store, or on the street as he's taking an evening walk. So he's keeping that in mind all throughout every decision that he makes. And this type of accountability is particularly important for liquor stores because this is the way a liquor store is run affects everybody in the community, not just the patrons. This is not like selling shoes or coats or something like that. This is something, the way it is conducted, and spills over the entire community. Furthermore, it encourages investment in the community. Gary's going to talk with you all some in a moment about the ways that he's reinvested his profits into the community, creating jobs for about 25 people, further tax revenue, and exciting retail opportunities in Laverne, which create a community identity for the city. Along those same lines, it helps to keep the money local. In this day and age of Kroger and other mega conglomerate stores, it's very difficult to keep your money local. I know that Laverne has got a really big buy local initiative right now. That's a very important thing to be doing. It's a very good thing to do, and this ordinance is a good way to make sure that that happens. You're not sending your money off to Memphis or New York or somewhere like that. It also promotes better business practices. Gary, again, not only is he a citizen of the community, but if he sells to somebody who's had one too many, he has to think, that might be my daughter that he hits on the way out of here, or my wife, or my friend. And these are things that make sure that the liquor store is run in a way that is not detrimental to Laverne. And also, as a member of the community, he's more likely to say, I know that's a fake ID. I know that you're not 21 because I see you walking to school in the mornings. He knows that if the way he conducts his business endangers the community, it endangers his community. And so he's not going to do that. So in conclusion, we would like to ask that the ordinance remain in place. We think that it helps to keep Laverne a pleasant place to live, that it ensures that the liquor stores are conducted with a sense of pride in the community, that the businesses themselves look nice, that they're run responsibly. It encourages investment in Laverne by bringing people like Gary to Laverne who are business-minded and want to invest. Gary moved here specifically because of the ordinance. It promotes better business practices, it keeps your money local, it ensures accountability to both the citizens and to the local government to make sure that this type of business is run in a way that benefits Laverne. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Gary Patel.
Respected Mayor Aldermen, my name is Gary Patel. I own the Laverne Beverage Depot. I live in a Laverne with my wife and 2 kids. asking you to keep the resident requirement which requires a person to live here for 2 years before they can own liquor store in place. Residency restriction is what's best for Laverne because I have to conduct my business in a way that is a good for the city of Laverne. Because if I don't, I will hear about it from my neighbors, friends, customers, others I see around them, and also my public official. I moved here because of this ordinance and have made Laverne home. Since then, I have invested in Laverne. Partners Jerry Patel and I own Comfort Inn and Subway together. Obviously, we own liquor store. Together, Jerry and I employ more than 25 people. We built the small shopping center across the street, Laverne Center Plaza, with Domino's in it. The business we own and those that rent from us, such as a Domino's, all employ people and bring tax revenue to the city. In addition, I have a contract to buy a land next to the liquor store, and I'm trying to put a major restaurant franchise in there now. This has all happened because of residents' requirement. I always look for a way to make my business better because I'm there 6 days a week. I live 40 seconds away, so if there is ever a problem, I can be there to take care of it quickly. Ask that you keep the audience in a place because it ensures that people who own liquor store, they live here. This means that they will conduct their business like we want them to because they live here too. If there is a problem, we know who to go to get it fixed. It's helped to make Laverne the great place to live that it is. Please keep the ordinance in a place. It is what's best for Laverne. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeremy Sargent?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the City's Council of Laverne. My name is Jeremy Sargent, and I manage Wine and Spirits Unlimited on Waldron Road. We have come before you again in regards to the 2-year residency ordinance for liquor stores in Laverne. We at Wine and Spirits Unlimited are very happy with Waldron Road finally being opened up all the way down to Murfreesboro Road, and we hope this road completion will help in the sale of our business to numerous interested parties, all of whom live in Tennessee and many of whom live in Rutherford County. These parties, however, currently live outside the city of Laverne, and we are asking the City Council to help in the repealing of the residency ordinance that makes it a requirement to live in Laverne for 2 years to own a liquor store. The prospective business owners we have talked to about the sale of our store are eager to spend their money here in Laverne and transform Wine and Spirits Unlimited into the successful liquor store it once was and a beacon of small business venture to the newly opened Waldron Road. With another proprietor of Wine and Spirits Unlimited that is willing to keep the store open and profitable by infusing more inventory and advertising, this will in turn make more money for the City of Laverne in the way of sales and tax revenue. This type of local success and small business continuation can be a rallying point for the City of Laverne and a welcoming presence for other retail establishments to begin setting up shop on Waldron Road in order to win back customers from surrounding competition in Davidson County and Smyrna. If we are unable to sell our store to one of these out-of-city interests, we will be forced to close shop in the next month, and Waldron Road and the City of Laverne will be left with a sizable hole in its economy without sales and tax revenue brought by Wine and Spirits Unlimited. When one small business tumbles, especially one that has been established on Waldron Road since 2002, then other small businesses on both sides of I-24 could suffer the same fate. Customers will not venture further down Waldron Road, but instead will rely on places closer to their jobs or stop on other exits off I-24, such as Sam Ridley. Rather than have our store close and effectively take on average $70,000 to $75,000 per year, and for comparison to $75,695 in 2011 in sales tax revenue we supply the City of Laverne, we are seeking for this council to repeal the ordinance that requires a 2-year residency for ownership of a liquor store. We hope you will consider revision of the 2-year residency ordinance, as this will help all involved and keep a business in Laverne from closing permanently. Please don't take away this offer to continue the revenue stream and added retail the City of Laverne so desperately needs in the face of growing competition from surrounding areas. Thank you for your time and attention, and we hope you will make a positive decision to repeal the residency requirement for liquor stores in Laverne. Sincerely, Susan Green, owner Wine and Spirits Unlimited, and Jeremy Sargent, manager Wine and Spirits Unlimited. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. All right. This is to be discussed later on, So we'll have much more discussion about this at a later time in this meeting. At this time, we will move on into the regular meeting. Vice Mayor cannot be here with us tonight. He is on duty. They changed his shift, so he is now on A shift, and so that's why he is not here. So I want everybody to know that. At the meeting on Tuesday night, Alderman Green, you'll have the prayer, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be by Alderman Waldron. Please review over the minutes for the December 4th regular meeting and the December 13th special called meeting. So you have 2 sets of minutes there to have read over. Next, we're going to get right into our annual audit presentation from Uri Howell and Associates.
Good evening. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Greg Howell with Uri Howell and Associates. I'm here to present your June 30, 2012 audit. Your audit did receive an unqualified opinion, which is the highest level of opinion you can receive. This means that your financial statements are in conformance with generally accepted accounting principles. As you're aware, your prior year report did receive the Government Finance Officer's Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This means your reports meet the highest standards in reporting and goes far beyond the minimum reporting requirements to provide information to your citizens. And we believe this year's report continues to meet those high standards. To summarize some of the results of the audit, I've prepared some graphs, so if you'll get those in front of you now, we'll just briefly go over those. First graph shows the revenue sources for the city for 2012. Local taxes made up about 68% of your revenue source. That's up from about 60% from the prior year, and that's a result of your tax increase, which brought in more revenue from a local source. Then the governmental revenues were about 20%, and license and permits were about 7%. They were down 2% from the prior year because building permits continue to be down. They've been down the last several years. Fines and penalties went from 4% to 2.5%. They were down primarily because court fines were down $100,000 from the previous year. The other areas were pretty much the same as the prior year. Excuse me. The next graph breaks down your expenditures by your day-to-day operating expenditures, which are your current expenditures, your debt service, and your capital outlay. You spend about 80.8% on day-to-day operating expenses, about 9.5% on capital outlay, and 9.7% on debt service. That's pretty much comparable to other cities. In years past, you'd been spending less on capital outlay due to some budget constraints, but with the increase, you were able to replace some of your capital items, and this gets you more in line with what other cities are doing to keep their capital projects in place and their equipment up to standard. The next page breaks down those day-to-day operating expenses by department. You spend almost 53% of your budget on public safety. You spend about 18% on general government, about 14.5% on streets and stormwater, 6% on recreation, 4% library, and 3.5% health and welfare. The only area that's up any significance is public safety is up about 2%, and that was primarily related to the fire contract being up a little bit. That was the reason for that increase. The bottom graph on that page takes your salaries and wages. You spend about 55% of your salaries and wages on public safety, almost 20% on general government, 12% on streets and stormwater, 6% recreation, and 5% library. Those were very comparable to the prior year. You've done a very good job in holding those costs in place. Really, the only increases were related to some inflation. They're all almost exactly as they were in the prior year. The next graph shows the revenue trends. And as we discussed before, local taxes is up quite a bit due to your tax increase. Intergovernmental, your local taxes up also because of your sales tax and property tax are both up. The intergovernmental was up due to the state sales tax being up, and all other revenues are either flat or down just a little bit. Like I said, fines and penalties are down about $100,000 from the previous year. The Bottom graph is your expenditure trends. Your day-to-day operating expenditures have basically followed inflation. You've held those pretty much to inflation level and have not incurred any extraordinary increases in expenses in those areas. And as I noted earlier, over in capital outlay, you did increase your capital outlay expenditures in the prior year, replacing some of your capital items that had needed to be replaced. Next page shows your day-to-day operating expenses and their trends. As I mentioned before, they're all pretty much level except for public safety, which that's due to the fire contract being up. The bottom is salary and wages. As I said before, you've held those well in line and done a good job in controlling that area. The next graph is your medical insurance fund, which is your fund, your self-insurance fund for your health insurance for your employees. The revenues were about $36,000 less than expenditures, so your fund balance in your medical insurance fund went down about $36,000, and it's down to about $175,000. Depending on your experience this year, it's an area you might need to look at to see if some increases may need to be made into the plan. The next page is your water and sewer operations. This is the first year in several years that the water and sewer fund operated at a profit. You had a rate increase, and this is your net income was about $983,000, and this has put the water and sewer fund on a much more stable financial position, and should be able to fund your operations well with this type of fee schedule here. Next page is your debt service requirements. It's pretty much flat through 2016, the red being your general debt and the green being the water and sewer debt. Through 2016, it's pretty stable. It drops down a little bit from 2017 through 2022, and debt's paid off in 2025. Bottom graph shows the comparison of the city and county tax rates over the last 10 years. The last graph is the fund balance trends. Your fund balance is up about $3.4 million to a level of about $7.3 million. This is about 6 months of operating expenses. This is considered to be a financially sound fund balance. Cities strive to be in that position. In years past, you've been about 2 or 3 months, and it's kind of a delicate position to be in, but now you've got a pretty sound position. That completes my report. In the prior year, we had some findings. The staff did resolve all those findings. We had no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in this year's audit, which is a great achievement. I did have some management comments that I would like to make for you to look at to improve your operations. I think you need to look at your controls and procedures related to the drug investigations and make sure we get those up to a level that the expenditures in that area has increased quite a bit. So we want to take a look at those procedures to make sure we are keeping in line with those. We want to I'd like to recommend that each department reconcile their gasoline usage by vehicle and explain any unusual variances. Like you look at your travel expense reports and improve some of the reporting on those travel expense reports. Make sure that all your departments are making their deposits within 3 banking days. All utility adjustments are approved in compliance with your policy. Police citation tickets are issued in numerical sequence. Those books in the past year were issued in other than the numerical sequence, and it made it hard to follow through on every ticket. And I think we could improve some controls in that area. And your unaccounted for water is ranging from 20 to 29%. I think we need to look at what's the cause of that unaccounted for water. If there's any questions, I'll be glad to address those.
Any questions? Any? Phyllis, you have any comments? Or? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay. We will have the Employee of the Month for January at Tuesday's meeting. So I guess now we'll move right on into old business. Give me just a second here to get organized. All right, old business. This will be a second reading, Ordinance 2012-27, an ordinance to amend Title 8, Chapter 1, Section 8-108 of the Laverne Municipal Code regarding restrictions on operators of retail liquor stores. A public hearing on January 8th at 6:30 will be held. So we will have a public hearing Tuesday night at 6:30. That way, that will allow for anyone that wishes to speak for or against this ordinance may do so without time restrictions. All right, I'm going to open this up for some discussion. Who wants to start? I'll start. I've heard from both sides on this. I've gathered information. I've looked at information. I think this is a very serious ordinance that we need to take very, very seriously. Yes, it is the sale, in my opinion, of a legalized drug, which is alcohol. I think I like them having to live here. I'm sorry. That's my opinion. I mean, I've listened to everybody. I've weighed all of our options. Laverne is not a large square footage. I think, what are we, 17 square miles? Somewhere in the ballpark? 25 square miles. Most of that being residential. So, I think if it's not broke, don't fix it. That's my opinion. So I'll start with the discussion.
All right. I'm going to jump in and say I certainly understand both sides, but like I said last month, we don't make ordinances for one side or the other, but for the city and what's right for the city. Where I've been stuck, and I have spoke with, again, both sides as well, is we are a city struggling for retail. And certainly the liquor store presents another type of retail, and as you said, you called it a legalized drug. My feelings on it is we have an ordinance right now that our direct competitor, when I mean to say that, is Smyrna. Again, where everyone goes for their clothes, or one of the places they go for their clothes, they definitely go there for their shopping and for their restaurant. We are making a very restrictive or keeping a very restrictive ordinance that limits what Laverne may or may not be able to do. Mayor, I agree with you that under ideal circumstances, I'd like everything to come out of Laverne. I'd like Smyrna to be coming to Laverne to do some shopping and so on and surrounding areas. But at the same time, I'm going to use their situation, but it's not just theirs. It could be Gary's situation, and I posed it to his attorneys. In 5 years from now, if he chooses to sell his store, again, he is limiting who he can sell it to. But ultimately, it is our residents that will do without retail. The city will do without some tax revenues. So here's where my struggle has been. I applaud Gary. Gary has done everything correct, everything that was asked to do by the ordinance, residential ordinance, moving here. And not only that, he has opened up other business, and he's looking to open up future business. So he's doing what we'd like to see other business owners do. So you have to applaud him, and you have to say that he's a model business owner here, and we certainly appreciate him. But at the same time, look at the other end. They're looking to sell their business, and they're, as I said, and let's say that it happens, and you know they're saying with a lot of conviction that hey, they're gone next month. I agree with some of the things that he said. That's a big hole right there on Waldron Road, and you know, will we get someone back there? Will it be a liquor store? Will it be something else? I don't know, but I'm struggling right now. I want to do what's right. I've offered. I've said I'll keep the door open. Let's find a compromise. I don't know what it is because the sides are basically 180 degrees apart. But you know, I just think that if we have an ordinance that makes more restrictive, we're already losing to Smyrna. I believe we will continue to lose to Smyrna. I don't know if they have, as we do, I think it's 7,500, one liquor store per 7,500. I think Smyrna has 3 liquor stores. I'm not certain of that is. They certainly could build another 1 or 2, and if they have any sort of those type of ordinances as well. So, again, I would like to still take these next 4 days and try to find some sort of, and the only word I can say is outside the box thinking that you know, and I don't know what it could be, because I know we've talked about it for probably 2-3 weeks, but the door's open, but right now I cannot restrict Laverne, and we're working so hard on getting retail, and this may be a way we're closing the door on retail. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, I feel a lot like Tom, as far as you could, I mean, you feel for both sides.
Oh, yeah,
But
absolutely.
I still like this ordinance. That's my feelings.
Because this came into play, what, 2002? I think it was 2002.
I think it was approved, you know, on the election in 2000.
Okay.
And then the new regulations, I think, were 2001 at some point.
So it was early 2000s, so I'm in the ballpark.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my thoughts on it, I like the ordinance like it is, but then I'm not sure if I wouldn't like it better the other way. So I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know which way I'm gonna fall. I'm still.
It is not easy. It is not an easy.
Let's just do this. I mean, I know we don't generally do this. I'm glad that we're even really looking at this in depth. But what would be the motivation? I mean, what was the motivation 12 years ago? My understanding, and according, going back, even talking with Graham Coates, who was part of the trying to get the whole liquor by the drink here in Laverne, it was modeled after another city. I understand some of the rationale that they bring up. That certainly, you know, there's some loyalties here, and that's what you want to keep it. But I have to say, and hopefully it changes. You know, Laverne is not right now Franklin. It's not a Brentwood. There's not a ton of investors. I'm not saying there aren't some. I'm just saying that we're limiting our ability. And so my question to y'all, if you're going to keep it, is what is the motivations? What would be the, you know, that we would restrict a potential business owner? What is the motivations why you would not?
With me, I'm about quality, not quantity. And I've seen where we've sold our souls to the devil in the past and continued to change ordinances or change zonings, and I think it's got us into a mess that this group right now is even having to clean up. So do we want a liquor store that bad just to change an ordinance for a liquor store to sell? And I mean, let's face it, to me, in my opinion, we're doing it for one business. And I know you're looking at the future down the road, and I understand that as well. But everybody knew that, and I'm sure even they knew that when they came into this, when they opened up that business, they too had to live in Laverne. I mean, we're not talking about, you know, a Walmart or a TJ Maxx or clothing. We're talking about a very specific product, which they have very specific customers. Your customer range is not going to waive that much. You're going to have a certain group that's what they're going to purchase. And when we get into ordinances like these, my concern is, are we not seeing the forest for the trees? Okay, we see dollars, we see retail, we want to sell, and are we looking at the whole big picture is what I'm looking at. And that's my opinion. And absolutely, we've been on that end of almost on our hands and knees when we go to these conventions, absolutely begging people to come here. And so I've been on the end of literally being on our knees begging for people to come here, and I understand that. But I just feel that this came about because of one single business. And that's me, and I certainly I feel for them, I do. But I just think we better be very cautious in what we're stepping in on this one.
Mayor, this is why I say I'm torn. Everything you're saying, I understand, but I still say there's two things. I don't think it's for one particular business. It may look that way because, quite frankly, had it been not brought to our attention, if they had not talked about moving, I have to tell you, that part of the ordinance, you know, there's many of them that we have to go back and look at or rely on Bruce or whatever. But then when we found out that surrounding cities, and there are some, the attorneys gave us this paper here that has Henderson, Cookeville, Franklin, Metro Nashville, Lebanon, Clarksville, several cities that have a residency requirement. I don't think I'm looking at it that way, because what I'm saying is this, is our competitor is right next door, and you know what, it isn't about dollars and cents, it's about everything that everyone's asked for. You know and I know that people have come up and said, when are we going to have this? Whether you shop there, I shop at any of these, you know, I can tell you what, there's a heck of a lot of people on New Year's Eve, they couldn't park, they were pulling across the street in both places where they couldn't get in. Having said that, I think that there's another issue. We're fighting this and debating this, and I truly believe, as Evan brought up last month, this is going to be a moot issue anyway within, I'd say, 6 months to a year when the state does bring in liquor or wine being sold in the Walgreens and the Rite Aids and the Krogers and so on. In the meantime, you know, again, if it's that gentleman or group or corporation or whomever it is that's going to potentially, they're saying they have some potential investors or a buyer right now, do we lose them? Do we lose them? And I don't want to lose one business. I don't want to lose any of our existing business, and I know you don't either. So again, this is why it's been tough. You have some people that are doing everything that we ask them to do, but at the same time, we have a city next door that doesn't have a problem with throwing another liquor store down or another restaurant or another TJ Maxx or a J.C. Penney, and we are so behind the eight ball. I don't want to lose any business. So that's where I'm trying to look at it. What's best for the city. And again, my mind isn't made up totally. And like I said, I would really like to, if there's any way, any compromise, any happy medium, which I don't know what it could be, I certainly would be willing to listen to it.
Any more comments?
Well, I think both sides has got good. You hear on the news about the state gonna let Kroger's and them sell wine. If a big grocery store chain wants to build a store in Laverne, that could be the breaking point of them not coming in or what. But you know, I'm kind of.
But if that does happen, that's gonna hurt the business.
Hometown mom and pop shops, you know. You know, anytime a Walmart comes into a small town, it puts the 5 and 10, the mom and pops out of business. So, you know, you got good and bad, you know.
Any more? I want everybody to say, you know, everything that they feel. Bruce, if you want to jump in there, please feel free, you know, to do so.
The only thing I would probably say, and there again, I along with you, I see both sides of the issue, and I see benefits for both ways. Back when the ordinance was written, I was heavily involved in writing that, and we basically did. We took various information, various parts from different cities around the state, and compiled one ordinance that we liked, you know, to use for the basis of the ordinance to begin with. And so, you know, I don't remember exactly what came from where, you know, but of this list here that has been presented, you know, there's basically 6 cities listed, 4 of which have residency requirements that are county and not city. So I think that's a big thing to note. Only Hendersonville and Clarksville have city residency requirements, whereas the others on here basically have to be a county resident. So that may be something to consider as well, if you would want to possibly change to just having Rutherford County folks that own the businesses instead of, you know, the city. I mean, that's just a possible compromise that I can possibly see. But you know, ultimately, it's your decision to make, and you know, it's a tough decision.
This was a hard, because I went through that with you, Bruce, and it was not easy.
Right. It took several months to get that approved the first time.
And obviously, this worked because, I mean, we have good businesses. You know, here, y'all lived here. I mean, all of our liquor stores were home-owned.
I think regardless of how we vote, it's not gonna limit the amount of liquor stores that's here.
No.
You know, we already eligible for one more liquor store.
Actually, two.
Actually, well, yeah, that's
And
what
they were pushing on two, but definitely one more. And like, you know, we can't control what Smyrna does. Smyrna could put in two more and we could, you know, I'm gonna make my decision not for what's good for the liquor store on Murfreesboro Road or what's good for the one on Walden Road. I'm gonna make my decision on what I think is good for the city. And sometimes you make both sides bad. So.
Any more discussion on this? Spit it out, guys.
No, I believe, like,
Everybody?
I'm gonna sound like Sherry, but this is tough. I mean, this really is, because you wanna do what's right for both sides and for the city. And only thing, again, this is not trying to argue with you, but you say it's worked. I don't know if it's worked, because we can. If it's 7,500, one store per 7,500, and we're sitting at 33,000 people right now, we could have 4. We have 2. That doesn't mean that we lost one. We'll never know that. Maybe somebody looked into the residency requirement and it didn't. So did it work or not? Look, we had successful businesses here. Could they work here in Laverne? They've shown a model that could, but we haven't reached our max there. And again, whether you're for a liquor store or you're not, we could be talking about a car parts store in the sense that I don't want to push any business or limit anybody that may go to another city and not to Laverne. And I've said that about 3 times, so that's about it. So.
That's your story and you're sticking
Sticking
to it, huh?
I can speak as far as interest over the past few years for people wanting to bring liquor stores in. I know that over the last 4 or 5 years, we've probably had at least 3 or 4 people come and talk to me about wanting to bring in a liquor store, and as soon as I tell them the residency requirement, that pretty much kills it. So I mean, there has been interest. Now, whether or not they would
But we
actually
didn't offer
follow
to change,
through,
yeah.
you know, and move in the long run, you know, we'll never know because of the residency requirement. So, you know, there is interest out there. To what extent, I don't know.
I felt like crazy to keep liquor out of Laverne.
Pass that down.
Yeah, it didn't work. I tried.
Okay. Good conversation. Lots to think about. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask them Tuesday night if something comes up that you have a question about. This is
Very
it's
touchy.
it's very it's a lot to think about. So please do your homework. Write down questions that you could come up with possibly between now and Tuesday, and we will have a public hearing. So those for or against, please be here by 6:30. We will have that public hearing. I think that'll be a good thing to have, to hear from a lot of different people, hopefully, and we'll go from there. Okay? All right, moving on to our consent agenda items. Number 1, approve recommendations for city bids and purchases, purchase of a ditching bucket attachment for the stormwater department.
Mayor and Board, this is a piece of equipment that we've had probably for 6 years now. We've had a 6-foot ditching bucket on it. Through just general wear and tear and use, it's become damaged, so we just need a replacement. So that's what that is. We got some quotes and just asking approval to purchase that.
Seems like I remember us talking about this.
It got damaged about 2 months ago, I
Okay.
think.
I've just heard,
Is it the bucket part that needs replacement?
Just the bucket. It's not the
Oh,
hydraulic.
what brand of equipment is it on?
Cat.
Cat.
So it's actually same brand what we were asking for.
The Scott Construction carries the same.
They said they could manufacture one, and as you can tell, it's more expensive. And then we'd asked another company, and they said that we needed to go with Caterpillar since it's a sole source, that they couldn't provide that type bucket. So
But Cat would be a generic fit, and then the other one would be kind of a.
yeah, well, Cat would be the exact same bucket that's on it today.
But the other company would have to
Manufacture one.
manufacture one. Okay.
And they may have one that's kind of standard with their piece of equipment that's probably similar enough that, you know, they probably have a standard bucket that's about the same. So they may not have to start from scratch, but basically this is the prices that we've got there.
okay, so on this one, it's going with Thompson.
Yes.
All righty. Any other questions? All right, next is the purchase of 6 fire hydrants for the water department.
Yeah, Mayor Alderman, this is, our this year's budget, we had $20,000 budgeted for fire hydrants. We've used none, since I was tasked to, step in. I've gotten a list from, the fire department. There's like 18 hydrants that are inoperable right now. We've ordered parts to repair what we could. These 6 will help us replace ones that cannot be repaired.
Awesome. All right. Okay, any questions on those?
Which one of these are you going with, the lowest bid here? or-
Well, we want to go with not the lowest because that's a 3.5 foot berry and it's a red hydrant. And if you ask Mr. McCormick, we use yellow and we would like the 4 foot berry.
Okay.
So it's a hair more expensive, but it fits our needs better.
So are you going with HD?
Yes,
supply? Okay.
right. That's who we'd like to.
All right. Next, number 6, going into motion to appoint or remove board members. Okay. We are vacant one. I'm sad to say, we've lost Miss Candy Pierce. Candy has bought a new home outside of Laverne, actually on the other side of Nashville. So she did a really good job for us for many, many years. It was sad to lose her. We do have applications, and Dana Blair doesn't have a choice, so he's staying. And we didn't even ask Dana. We're just telling him he's staying. Is that okay with you, Dana? But we do have another opening, and Miss Kathy Hines has applied for that position. For those of you who know that Kathy is big into the 10-0, and I think she would be a perfect fit on this board because she does know the laws and is working diligently on several things that she's wanting to see done through the state. So I think she would be a good fit for your board, Dana. So do think about those. Economic development. We do have one vacant position open, and we will be meeting, but we meet Wednesday. So we're probably going to wait on this one because I do want, we had several that were during the holidays, did not get to come. So I'd like to put this off another month because I do like I want the board to look. We have some good, very good applications, and I certainly don't want to, we want everybody that wants to be involved with economic development to be involved with it. So if you don't mind, we will put that off. Next is the Greenway, and that's Sarah Hellwagon. Am I saying that correctly?
I think it's Howell, isn't it? Or is it
Hellwagon?
Howell-wagon? I don't know.
So do you know, has she been coming, Tom?
Sarah's been coming.
Okay, awesome.
There's another one that has not been coming, that's not on here, and that would be Lisa Deist, and I believe that's, it's not even on here at all. So we actually appointed her a year and a half ago, and she's not showed to a meeting yet.
So who's on here that's not supposed to be?
I'm just saying, I don't see Lisa Deist's name on here at all.
Okay,
Check my list, I must have used an old list.
okay. All right, you and Bruce look over that. Let us know. Okay. Historical. Mr. Tyler Mann.
Bruce, have you notified him, see if he's,
I have not had a chance to get in
Okay.
touch with him. I'll find out before Tuesday night if he wants to stay.
All
We've
right.
not received any other applications so far.
he'll probably want to stay, just call him and
Okay.
verify it.
All right. Next is the Laverne Housing Authority. And you've not contacted him?
Still have not gotten in touch with him.
Okay.
If I don't hear back by Tuesday, I'll take this off the agenda.
Okay. All righty. And then we have two for the library board, and we won't even ask those two. We'll just tell them they're going to stay. That's Alderman Green and Miss Donna Bebout. But do get in contact with Donna. And Alderman Green, you're staying. So.
Okay.
I'm sure Miss Donna will as
Oh,
well.
she will too.
Y'all have a good little board going there.
We do.
The terms for Tim Hooker, Price Justice, Joe Lalo, I never can say his name right. Lalo, Laura Davidson and Brian Toll have expired. Are all of those still, I know Tim and Laura, what about the environmental? And Tim's still with emergency, so.
We've spoken with the environmental people, and Joe's just been on a lot of ER, so we've got a backup for him as well.
Okay,
So, and we have to get emails for those gentlemen who's with now, so we should get notifications back.
and what about the Red Cross? Is that the same gentleman with the Red Cross?
It should be.
Okay.
The good thing about what we've done, when we changed the regulations where if the main person could not come, they could send somebody in their place.
Awesome.
That has really helped out a lot,
Awesome,
especially with this board, so.
fantastic. All righty. We're moving right along to Planning Commission, Graham Coates, Connie Hayes. I did speak with them, Bruce, at the Planning Commission, and they will be happy to stay. Stormwater, we have Mr. Tom Welch and Miss Mary Jane Skinner. I'm sure both of those will be happy to stay.
I'll check before Tuesday.
All right. And this is just FYIs on the Board of Zoning Appeals. The end of January, I did speak with Mr. Carger, and he would love to stay on this board as well. The Construction Board of Adjustments and Appeals, Rick Duffy and Douglas Stanfield. I don't believe I know Mr. Duffy, but I know Rick, Doug will probably stay on that. But let's be sure and check with them.
Right.
Next, we have the Parks and Recreation, Leanne Crawley and Deborah Edwards.
I believe Deborah is going to stay. Leanne has said both, so I guess we'll have to try to give her a call the next couple of days, or I guess by the next month.
Next month, yeah,
This won't
you're
be
good.
good.
These are just
Okay,
FYIs,
okay.
so we can start contacting, making sure these want to stay on. Okay. You know, if we don't have any more questions about the boards, if y'all don't mind, can we move on to the resolutions? Because I believe we have someone from the Stevens Group with us, so he doesn't have to continue to stay. I apologize, I forgot that we did have some people that are sitting waiting for their, so if y'all don't mind, we can jump around on that. The first one, I believe, is number 10. That is a resolution 2013-02, an initial resolution authorizing the assurance of not to exceed $12,700,000 water and sewer revenue and tax bonds of the city of Laverne. Now, in doing this, help me here, all we're doing, we're not saying we're going to take the bonds, but we're giving them permission to move further in getting these bonds together. Am I correct in saying that? Okay. So we're not voting on borrowing this yet. We're just giving them permission to tell them we are very interested, so everybody can come back to us with the exact dollar amounts. So with that being said, if we have questions for them, do so. We can do so. I've already spoken to Bill and Jerry, and what I've told them to go back, you know, we did a capital outlay amendment on these projects. We've already got some of them ongoing, like with the water treatment plant, etc. But what I've asked them to do, and you'll probably have to have those too as well, I want real numbers where they're going to go back, go over that list one more time, look over that list, giving us the dollar amount of what, as close as we can get to what a project's going to cost with that. With that being said, I've also asked them to look into what it would cost to do the water and sewer to 2 different places where we're all discussed as far as where we think retail might pop up. That is at the end of Old Nashville Highway and what we all call the old rock quarry, behind Target, the land behind Target. So I've also asked them to do some figures on that as well for us in that. With that, do you want to speak on any of this as we talk? Go ahead.
I'll be available to answer any questions. There are
Okay.
a couple of thoughts. Mayor, appreciate the opportunity to come and meet with you all tonight. And a couple of thoughts. The resolution that's before you is a maximum amount. So if you determine you want to issue less than that, then certainly we can move forward with these resolutions. If you determine you want to issue more than that, then we'll need to revise those resolutions to reflect a different amount above that. This resolution, the passage of these does not enable us to go issue the bonds immediately. We do that on your direction, and we don't incur any cost prior to issuing those bonds. So once they're issued, then that's when the costs are incurred. The 2 resolutions you have before you, one includes a refunding. It's a small refunding, but it helps to offset the cost of issuance for the new money portion. And so that would need to go before the state for their review, and then they'll issue a report to the city saying what savings are projected to be for the city, and then they'll send that to you, and then that way you have an independent evaluation of the refunding to make sure you're okay with that. We feel like it warrants, it's a small amount, but it does warrant the savings. If you don't do it, then you don't save the money. So we recommend doing it if you feel like you want to move forward. It only saves about $45,000. But it's a small amount. It's $920,000 note issue, and so $45,000 on $900,000. It's a pretty good amount, and it would help, like I said, to offset most all the cost of issuance on the new money piece. So just a few little things there, but I am available to answer any questions. I've looked at other scenarios, but really until I get your final need list of what you all want me to finance, then I can look at specific amortization schedules that would be the best for the city.
Awesome.
Yep.
And then at that point, we also need Phyllis to say, this is the amount we can pay comfortably. And so we've got a lot of numbers that they're all having to work on and get with. But this is basically, and help me if I'm wrong here, this is just basically saying, we want y'all to get started on looking at this.
Right.
Okay? So if we pass this Tuesday, that does not mean we're
Other
gonna be
words,
getting that money.
If we pass this resolution, it's about like putting the bullets in the gun, we just ain't firing it right now.
Right.
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 And if you do decide to do the refunding, like I said, we would need to let the state evaluate that, and they typically take 15 days. So we may come along at your February meeting with a follow-up on the refunding piece.
But the $12,700,000,
Be the new portion.
the 27, the bond, we're gonna determine how much the bond costs us each year.
Right.
Okay. And it's not to
And-
exceed,
12,700,000 for the new money piece, and then 900 is, approximately 900 is for the refunding.
and that's annually.
Right. And what I would recommend is keeping your debt service as short as we can, but also maintain a good revenue for your water and sewer department, because one of the issues we don't want to create is an issue with the state funding board. We want it to be profitable or better.
Then you come back with the interest rate.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. On a 20-year issue right now, if you were to do this in today's market, you'd be looking at somewhere in the 2.5% range. So the rates haven't moved much since October when we last met.
And you're not gonna get money any cheaper. It's only gonna go up.
Yeah. We're getting a lot of calls right now because I think the fiscal cliff issue and the debt limit issue at the federal level has really prompted people to think about, we need to do some things, we better go ahead and do them before something else comes up. But not to rush you, but there are a lot of folks taking advantage of the low interest rate. So if you have needs, things that you need to do, it's a good time to do them. And it's probably not been a better time since the 50s, since we've seen interest rates like this.
And what he's speaking of is the next one, number 11, which is Resolution 2013-03. And let me read that. A resolution authorizing the assurance of not to exceed $13,620,000 in aggregate principal amount of water and sewer revenue and tax refunding and improvement bonds of the city of Laverne, making provision for the insurance sale and payment of said bonds, establishing the terms thereof and the disposition of proceeds therefrom, and providing for the levy of taxes for the payment of principal of premium and interest on the bonds. So this is,
A resolution just takes one
Yes, sir.
vote.
Yes.
One
Not a 1 and second vote.
Correct.
And these would be competitively bid, so these would be subject to low bid interest rate.
any questions?
Mayor, I don't have a question, but I'm kind of with you. I think our numbers need to be solidified across the board, and also where we're going with all this, whether we choose to bond out additional monies other than our old bonds for other projects, maybe the two that you just mentioned or whatever. But I think maybe over our retreat period and also over our budget period, we need to get some hard, fast numbers rather than the ones that seem to change.
They will have those. They will have, already talked to Bill and Jerry, and they will have all of those along with the projects, et cetera, on hand, which you're gonna have to have those anyway.
Right.
And the cost, as close as we can get the cost. And that's looking at everything that was on the plan that we had. So, and they will be getting back with us on all of that.
And to continue on, say one other thing, I think this is part of that if we do decide to do it. Well, I know that's not what in front of us right now. The 8.8 is what MTS's plan was originally to kind of keep us afloat or keep our balances. You know, if we go over and above, or I hope that we have some good debate on what we're going to wind up doing with it, or even if we can provide relief.
When we issue those bonds, it has to, I think, be pretty,
Well,
as close to earmarked as where it's
I'm not,
going.
Right, you'll have to lay out the purposes in the
And it has to be,
resolution. It'll be for water improvements and sewer improvements, but, yeah.
I'm not even
What
saying to
the-
that, excuse me one second here. I'm not even saying to that point. Certainly when we get to that point, they'll have to know exactly. I'm saying what we want to do, again, I still say, going back to March of 2011, when we first heard our water study, he said you could do this. If we're going to go above and beyond, or I think a priority needs to be, or looked at, whether there is relief back to our residents, other than just other projects over and above. Again, because we hit them with a pretty substantial raise, and if we're going, and we talked then about not bonding, but now we're talking about bonding, and maybe for other things above our capital projects. So I would like, that's what I'm trying to say to the board, rather than you, that I really hope we have some good debate again over the next 2 months or 3 months or whatever it is to really find out where exactly we want to go. Because we've talked about potentially taking the incremental raises away, but any relief would help them. So I think that's got to be also included in there. And those are some numbers I think we probably have to get from Phyllis. Or is my point? Did you understand my point or no?
Yeah, but we've pretty much put in concrete the projects that we have to do.
Yes, ma'am. But I'm saying
that's going to save us money in the long run.
Yes, ma'am. But I'm saying we're talking about borrowing a potentially additional $3.94 million from what we were asked to do in the plan. And I know those for other you know, we're talking about other plans, other than our capital plans that sat out there. And since this board came together, those same capital plans were there since 1999. Now we're talking about other things. If we're going to borrow some of the taxpayers' money, I think we need to look at maybe some sort of relief to them, or if it's possible. And that's all I'm trying to say. If we're going to borrow more money, I think that should be every bit as important as some of the other projects that we're talking about, because we're borrowing above an amount that MTS, that the utility study said that we should
Well,
borrow.
the only thing that wasn't on that was the meter readers and the two places for retail.
Okay.
Those were the only two things that were added to that. And Jerry will be getting us hard numbers on the meter reader, the water meters. Hard numbers on that. And then they're also looking at the cost for those two places.
And I believe that $50,000 a year was put into our capital plan for the meter readers for over a maybe 10-year period. So there was some money that was in our capital plan for that as well. So I just am saying, if there's a way to provide relief to the residents, and I've called for it about the 15th time we've talked about this, I think that needs to be looked at as well, if there's a possibility, if we're going to go on above the 8.8, that if we're going to borrow the whole 3.9, and maybe the retail end of it comes back to 2.5, and there's a way that we can borrow. If we're going to bond out, then I think they shouldn't be double dipped. We shouldn't have hit them with the high raises, and because we said a year and a half ago we were not going to bond, and now we are looking at bonding. So I'm just trying to look out for the residents as well, like I said.
Well, I
And
think
not
we
say-
all are,
Well,
Tom.
ma'am, I know you are. I'm saying.
Yeah.
But we talked about incremental raises maybe being stopped, but I'm not hearing that now. I'm saying if we could get those numbers, if that could potentially happen. Because again, you're talking over the 6 years of that utility study, ma'am, you're talking 70% that their total bills went up or will have gone up. And you know, we know we had to do it, but I still say if there's a way we can provide relief, I sure would like to. I'd like to see it. So,
Yeah.
and I know you do too. I'm just saying, you know, that's just something I really think that is possible.
Yeah, but we got to get this stuff fixed, and they're not going to have water if we can't get it to
But that
them.
8.8
Yeah.
was for that, to get everything fixed, and now we're talking about doing additional above. And so if we're going to, I'd like to see if and I've said it now. I mean, I'm not trying to argue with you tonight, I promise you I'm not. I'm
We're
just
in an
telling you.
argumentative mood. Go
Okay,
ahead.
all right, well,
But you said this is earmarked for this particular thing. What's inconsistent if it needs to be changed? Can it be changed?
In your resolution, it says, it'll lay out the specific, construction, for the purpose of construction of essential public works or facilities consisting of the construction of improvements and extensions to the water and sewer system of the municipality, including all property, real and personal, so on and so forth. So if it goes outside of that, if you try to use it for road improvements or for parks and recreation or other items, then you're going to have to go in and amend or pass a new resolution.
So it can be done
Right.
pretty easily, just amend it, so.
Right, you'd have to do a new resolution that would include the use of any excess funds for that purpose at a later date.
You mentioned it was earmarked, but I was thinking it could be, I thought it could be changed by a resolution.
That if we borrow 12 million, 12 and a half, whatever it is, that has to be spent on water and sewer projects. Now, we can change the scope of the projects, we can change the projects internally, but we have to keep that money in the water sewer.
Water
the
and
projects
sewer.
have to be
In that
water,
department.
Right.
Yeah, it can't be paid, it can't go into general fund.
Right.
It can't pay for anything, no police cars, no equipment for
Is the interest,
engineering.
excuse me, is the interest that we're paying, is it coming out of water and sewer? Okay,
Right.
okay.
It'll be be called a revenue and tax, so the water or sewer revenues will pay the debt service.
Okay.
And because of that, you can't move it into general governmental purposes.
It's coming out of, okay.
Right.
And,
It's separate and distinct.
and we got the money in there, I mean, you comfortable the money's in there, Phyllis? In the water and sewer, to pay the bonds.
Yes, with the current rate that we have, rate structure we have now, that we're building up with the increases, that was the whole purpose of the rate study, was to build in enough to cover our deficit plus our bond issue.
Right. And the state will not allow you to run in a deficit for over 2 years. If you do, then they'll come in and take over the operations and
We know
run it.
all about that, don't we?
You don't want that. You don't want to get to that point. But I think looking at all of your revenues and expenditures based on the study that was done, along with your projects that were being proposed, there is sufficient capacity in your water and sewer to pay for those projects.
Okay.
and that was the reason that he said by 2014, 2015, that fund would run out of money. That's why we had to borrow this $8.8 million if we were going to complete these projects, at least in the time period that we had said. So my question is, if that's the case and we're going to go above and beyond, and we're looking to maintain a certain balance, and we're going to borrow, and there is extra of, say, if this 12.7, I would like to see what is available, whether those incremental raises cannot be passed on to because again, I think we're hitting them both ways. We've hit them with the raise right now, and then we've taxed them over the next 20 years with these bonds. So that's what I'd like to see. What the numbers there, if that is possible, if we kept a balance, additional monies. Let's say we borrowed another $1 million. What the difference would be, and if we could give some relief to the residents. Do you understand what I'm asking you there?
We'll know when he gets the amortization schedules
Okay.
together for whatever amount we decide to borrow. We can factor that into some projections for the future years with and without increases, and to see if it's going to cause us to be back in a deficit position or
Sure.
profitable.
Well, basically, that's why we're passing it, just so we can move forward to see what we need to borrow, get real numbers, and then go from there. We're not saying we're going to borrow the 12
I understand that.
That's saying not to exceed.
I'm just throwing
Yeah.
out my opinion now, because over the next month or so, we will debate whether we want to provide utilities to those potential retail areas, or whatever else we want to do. And one of the factors I wanted to throw in, while we could talk about it legally here, is to just say, hey, I would like to see, one of the things I'd like to look into is the potential to provide relief. I understand this is not to borrow it. I'm just saying, as you came out with a couple ideas that we spoke of at our little retreat, that's something that I would really like to see, if possible, when the numbers come back.
So now we're just down to getting those numbers. So, any other questions? Any questions? All right. Thank you very much for being here. Okay. And I noticed Bill and Neil are here. Were those? Do we have one for you? Let's go on and get the water treatment. Is that what you two are waiting for? Okay. That's number 14. Discussion, we need an update on the bids for water treatment plant repairs. Will be open on January 29th, 2013. So y'all want to jump in there and tell us about those. Okay.
This is just an update to remind you, we're advertised to take bids for the water plant repairs. These are just general repairs. These are the things y'all noticed when you took a field trip out there. Go over it quickly. Is to replace some rusted metal items on the original filter. Y'all went out there on that catwalk, if you were looking down, you saw a lot of rusty handrails and toe plates and grating. It's cleaned the walls on some of the filters where they've cracked and shown evidence of long-time leaks. Replace some filter media. As a filter has age on it and as it's backwashed, it becomes finer and more rounded, so it just has to be replaced periodically. Based on the filter actions, Thomas has reason to suspect the filter bottom may be cracked or damaged on one or two of the filters. And so this $20,000 is a guess because nobody has seen it in 10 years. And we won't know the extent of the damage till we get the media out there and put eyes on it. So, but we put $20,000 in the budget for that. If you remember when you went through the laboratory, the floor had settled and cracked. This is to repair that. You'll notice there was mold and moisture on the ceiling tiles. This is to replace those ceiling tiles. It's to replace the heating and air conditioning units and put a vapor barrier between the laboratory building and the filter building, hopefully to keep the moisture out of there in the future. It's to replace the skylights. The old part of the plant has skylights. The new part of the plant does not. And we've noticed there's a difference in the amount of algae that grows in the tanks, and we attribute that to the skylights. So this is to replace the skylights with solid roof. So we won't have sunlight coming in and encouraging the growth of algae. And it's to repaint everything inside, walls and floor and all the metals. So these are just general repairs. Any questions?
And this is what we've already voted on this.
Yes.
The capital plan.
We waited this amount of time to let you build up your revenues. Didn't want to borrow money to do this, so we waited till you had the money in hand, and I understand you got the money in hand now. So hopefully we'll get good bids.
Okay.
Any questions?
Just recap, this is to do the repair on the water treatment plant.
Yes, sir, in the building itself. All righty.
Thank you, Bill. Okay, if I got everybody now, if I got everybody else, we're going to go back to number 7. Okay, I haven't skipped any more. Okay. Number 7, first reading, ordinance 2013-01, an ordinance to amend the 2012-2013 fiscal year general fund budget for the vehicle lease payment and purchase of the SCBA equipment.
Mayor, this is a two-part budget amendment. The first part of it is when we budgeted for the new police vehicles or think there's 10 or 13 vehicles that we're purchasing this year. I think there's a couple other departments too. We anticipated the same program that we had had in the past where we would pay the first installment in arrears. And when we got the lease agreement back, the leasing company requires the payment up front. So that was $152,000 of this amendment. The second part of this amendment is on the SCBA's that we had talked about leasing. We were going to pay, we had a budget $102,000 for this year. We were going to pay the balance of it in the following year. We got the contract for that. Evan looked at it. He's not real comfortable with it. There's some real fine print, a lot of strict stipulations in it on how we close out that lease. If we don't do certain things at a certain time, then we can default and lose our equipment. Because we will not be able to purchase that at the end of the lease agreement. So the only way we can get around this in order to get the pricing at the price that was quoted to us with all the different changes in the regulations or standards was to go ahead and purchase this equipment outright this year. That was $108,000. So that's a total of $260,000 amendment to this year's budget that was not budgeted for in this current year. And with, with our fund balance being a little better than the previous years, I feel comfortable that this is doable. It's just up to the board to vote on it.
As long as they don't try to sneak in that 108 next budget year for it.
Now, where's the money that has to be taken out of general fund?
Correct.
Would we be able to put it back in next budget, or?
Well, there's a possibility we'll put some of it back in this year because we've got some unfilled positions. We've got some changes in personnel where wages are lower than the previous personnel. We've got some, hopefully some reserve to come back. But may not be a lot, but we should be able to maintain.
Any questions? Any more questions? Okie doke. Number 8. This is the first reading, Ordinance 2013-02. I'm so sorry. An ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 6J, Group E, parcels 81 and 82 located at 509 Lake Forest Drive, consisting of 1.04 acres from a R2S medium density residential, which is grandfathered, zoning district to an AC3 neighborhood service zoning district. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on December 27th, 2012. This is the home right there at the end of Lake Forest. For whatever reason, back several years ago, they went in, they made a large daycare unit out of this. And it's just as you turn into Lake Forest right there on the right. And then there's a lot between it and actually Stones River. So what they're asking for is for this to be a C3. They gave us all the information. This is not spot zoning because the field directly across from it is also, it's already zoned C3. And we talked at great length about this with the applicant. Well, actually, it was the lady that runs the real estate center for the Shreveman properties. Right now, I think they are wanting to put a daycare center in that, back in the facility, which is already, it's already built for that. However, we looked for future on down the road with Hurricane Creek, and what we're wanting to do around the Greenway, Hurricane Creek. We think this would be a very good zoning right there. I think would be good for beneficial for the neighborhood because C3 is pretty limited. Even though it's commercial, it's not, it's pretty restricted. And being right across from that boat dock, we thought it would be an excellent time to look at, maybe push maybe for some type of little restaurant back down in there, close to the lake. I mean, there's hundreds of things that they could do in the C3 that would be very, very beneficial. And my husband wants a bait shop, so I see him back there mouthing. But we just think that this would be a very good fit right there at the opening of that subdivision. If y'all have any questions, Kristen's here. Kyle was in on this as well, so.
Kyle, do you have a list of what's available to go in on C3?
I don't have listing in front of me. Kristen may have her zoning with her.
I do. It's, as the mayor stated, it's our most restrictive commercial district. I can pass these out for you. It essentially just allows for generally recognized retail businesses, cafes, restaurants, anything that would be that would service people living immediately in that residential area.
Gas station.
Personal service establishments.
What's the zoning on it now?
It's R2S, which is a grandfathered medium density residential district.
And what'd you say the zoning across the street was?
It's also C3. This is the one district, commercial district that was designed to be in neighborhoods or directly adjacent to neighborhoods to help service the people that live there.
Okay. Gas stations, hardware stores,
Correct.
drug stores. Okay, I see it now. Okay. Grocery stores. Okay. Thank you.
Any comments, questions?
I think you said the only thing, I mean, there really wouldn't limit, you're limited to what you can do anyway, and across the street is already C3, so, and the way that they have that home modeled, you're not going to get anything in there other than probably than a daycare, so.
And I think that's a good fit
Sure.
for right there at that opening. And I'm probably the least one that likes rezoning. And I liked this. I liked, what I thought could possibly be even in the future with that, so.
And the applicant has indicated it's been utilized this way for over 10 years. And the residents are all used to it. In fact, the rezoning sign has been posted for over a month and I haven't received one phone call. So.
Okay. No more questions. We'll move right along. Number 9, Resolution 2013-01, a resolution to authorize an online auction of surplus vehicles and equipment.
Mayor, if you'll remember, last month we approved a resolution to amend our surplus property and how we could dispose of it. And part of that was in the future we would do all declarations as a resolution. Previously we'd always done them under the consent agenda. So this is the new resolution, pretty much straight from MTS. They had a model resolution, and this spells out the different items that we would like to put on Gov Deals, and that's about it.
I thought we already, that's how we got rid of ours anyway.
Well, we did auction them on gov deals, but we always did that through a vote on the consent agenda,
Okay,
whereas now we're doing it through a resolution.
okay,
That's really the only change.
okay, I just want to make sure.
It's
I
still a
understood.
one reading thing.
Gotcha.
It's just a written resolution instead of a vote on the consent.
Consent, awesome.
Why is it originally changing?
Just to make it more formal, I
Okay.
think, more than anything,
And-
more specific.
Wasn't that something that Yuri and Hal had said something
I
about?
don't
Was that
believe
one
so.
of
It's one
them?
thing that Evan had recommended, it's one thing that Evan
I knew
has
somebody
recommended
had
doing,
said
so
something,
that's-
okay.
That's how they recommend it be designated.
Awesome. See, I knew somebody was telling us what to do. Okay, awesome. All right, number 12, motion to purchase used truck and mobile cascade equipment for emergency services. Mr. Reedy.
Simple, but I'm afraid that it has not been. I've been dealing most of the day with Bruce and Cumberland International. We have been over the past year, we've talked about a pool vehicle for the command trailer and stuff. The truck we currently have is not in the best shape to be still pulling that piece of equipment for us. When we started talking about that, I got in with Chief Walker in the police department. There were needs for some lighting type equipment that we were needing on scenes for different things, crime scene, traffic reconstruction, as well as with the Public Works Department for water breaks and things like that. So we started looking at a piece of equipment and started getting some quotes and things up, some preliminary stuff to try to figure out what we could do to make this a piece of universal equipment for all the departments, police, fire, Public Works, anybody that would need it for whatever reason, whether it be air and light, whatever. Well, what we ran into is as we were starting to compile these things and get ready to put it out for bid, this piece of equipment was starting to exceed $325,000. In doing so, Cumberland International was helping me get those numbers compiled and what we needed to do to get the piece of equipment that we needed. In doing so, they ran across a piece of equipment that is in Kentucky. It's a used demo truck. The truck itself will suffice the pulling needs of the command center. It would also be able to house the compressor, cascade, and fill station and all for the breathing apparatus for the fire department, for the SWAT team, for the confined space entries for the Public Works and water and sewer, as well as providing a light tower and perimeter scene lighting, cord reels, things like that for all of the same agencies. We have $187,000 that is in budget for those two things, the air compressor equipment and the truck itself. We had pulled some equipment for, I think the fire safety trailer would be pulled by this piece of equipment. So it's just a multi-use vehicle. What I've run into over about the past 2 weeks is the vehicle is in Kentucky. It's at a dealership. It's a demo, a used piece of equipment. The compressor equipment's coming out of Texas. The actual, what we would consider Cumberland International to be as a broker on this because they found this used truck. So we're dealing with 3 entities in 3 states. What has happened over today's process is the compressor is not being able to be driven by the generator that's currently on the truck. So as of this afternoon, probably 4:30, we still did not have a firm number cost-wise. The price you see here in front of you here was listed at $186,500, was just shy of what we had allotted for that. However, we do have a small amount of money left in the police department in a budget there. I have some money left in the hazmat budget as well. I will have you a firm number, and if that is within the monetary range that we have funds available for this piece of equipment, once we know Tuesday what we can do to get the generator on that truck to properly suffice for the compressor equipment. So tonight, all I can really give you is the truck information itself, the compressor information is there, the equipment that's on the truck is there. It would all be the same. The thing that would change would be the generator itself. And what we're running into is one generator is too big to fit the truck, another generator was not enough to pull the compressor, If we downgrade the compressor, then it doesn't suit the needs of what we need for refill capabilities. So we've got to get all that figured out by Tuesday so that I can give you the definite number. I've also been working with Phyllis pretty close as well to see what monies are left where that we could transfer into this. I will not bring anything back to you Tuesday. I'll have it withdrawn completely if it is not within budget and the money that we currently have available to purchase this truck. So all of that being said, are there any questions?
Would you repeat all that?
And that's just the beginning. I've worried poor Phyllis and Bruce and Chief to death because it's just been back and forth. And I mean, it is used, so that's where we're running into some of the problems. Just luckily, before I brought this firm number to you tonight and asked you to vote on it on Tuesday, luckily these problems were caught, and we're going to try to get them rectified before it's ever brought back to you on Tuesday.
Awesome.
It looked like a Coca-Cola truck to me.
It actually does, doesn't it? Yeah. So, but if you have any further questions, there will be things I will have to talk to you about on Tuesday night, obviously, because at this point we don't know how we're going to fix the issue. But if it's over the monies that Phyllis tells me we have that we can spend on this, I will pull it from Tuesday night's meeting completely, and we will take another approach.
Okay. You want to make him sit down before you ask for anything else? Okay, guys, it's 6:35. Do y'all want? We've got two things left. Do y'all want to keep going and get going? Let's get it done. Okay. I just want to make sure everybody was all right. All right. Number 13, Christmas for Kids and Seniors, preliminary year-end crime statistics.
Mayor, Alderman, we had some concerns about some accountability in the past with being able to tell folks exactly what had been done and where and so on and so forth. And Phyllis and I had talked about that at great length. And this year we kind of modified the plan on what we were doing. And since LPD has pretty well taken the lead on this program for the last few years, I appointed a guy in the police department that's got a tremendous background, as I've told you before, with bookkeeping and accounting and taxes for businesses and individuals too. And that was Assistant Chief Glenn Taylor. Glenn was responsible for the side of accounting for the dollars and so on and so forth. And then a lady there in our office was the little general that got everything kind of pushing and going with a whole lot of help from quite a few folks. But if you'll look at the information that's there, there were 52 families that were provided Christmas with food and toys, and that was 149 children. And then there were 20 seniors that were given food boxes with personal items and candy, et cetera. And that was primarily the project that Miss Donna and her folks at the senior center took on and did. And then there were a listing of different families there and numbers of families that were taken on by groups and individuals. And if you'll notice, there were a lot of the city employees that were involved in that and that stepped up and stepped out. Firehouse Ministries and Percy Priest, FOP Lodge 85 both contributed good amounts to help. And then Rick at Willstands hosted a golf tournament that actually brought in about $900, well, right at $900.
And Box 100 also made a big donation.
Well, I'm not done yet.
Okay.
I'm not done yet. Rock Springs Middle did food boxes again after Thanksgiving. I have to tell you that the number for Christmas was one less than Thanksgiving because there was one dad of one of the families that lives in Laverne. Got to go back to work between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and as a result, that family chipped in and helped other families. That's called paying it forward, and that's what it's all about, and that's absolutely awesome. Miss Julie Webb, the assistant principal that you saw last month that was here, had 6 additional teachers that were there, and they participated along with the LFD and LPD and Garland, picking up the food and helping put the boxes together, and then the distribution of the boxes. And then they also adopted a family that was a middle school student but actually lives in Laverne. And that's a family that we found at Thanksgiving. It had no furniture in the home except for a couch. And it was an apartment. And now they're doing a lot better with furniture and some things in that home. LFD Rescue Box 100 stepped up. With rescue, they were involved from a couple of angles. First United Methodist helped a whole bunch of families. It was over, what, about 160, 70? 101 people, the number of people, yeah. 31 families to 101 people with the food pantry this year, in addition to the other things that were done. So you've got an idea of kind of what went on in our community this year, and it ought to make us all feel really good about it. We can account for every penny that was spent. We won't share names and things of that nature, but if anybody wants to see information on what was requested, what was asked for, what was purchased, we can supply that this year. That's not been done before, and all of those things are documented and accounted for. So many people helped. I could go on and on and on and on with Parks and Rec, Public Works, water billing. So many people did so much. It's an absolutely amazing group of folks. The mayor and Ronnie were there and involved. Garland used the trucks to help load and haul and bring back and forth. LFD Station 3 folks put 6 bicycles together that came from MAPCO that people donated. It's just awesome. It's absolutely unreal. We think it was an awesome event, and hopefully next year it can be as good, if not better. Because we've got a means and a mechanism in place now to get it done and get it together and be able to account for what we have and what we've done. Anybody have any questions?
About that?
About Christmas for Kids. And now I've got to say something about 2 more names that aren't on there. That little general, Tony Craddock, spent an awful lot of her personal time for about 2.5 weeks. And Mary Ann Brewington helped her. And Tony put most of this together today. She left herself out, but she worked hard. She chastised me and Glenn more than once, and other folks at the PD, and if she did that with anyone else, I apologize. She was trying to make sure it was done and done right, because there had been some issues trying to get things done in the past. No questions?
I think during these tough economic times, any help that y'all done to the people, well appreciated, I'm sure.
Well, we had a lot of people help, a lot of people contribute, especially some of the groups that are out there too, some of the businesses and industry that we have here in Laverne help too. And that's the preliminary up front. There'll be more documentation pulled together because of the holidays. I wanted to address with you the end of the year preliminary numbers too, because this is the forum I think we should discuss that in this session, and not necessarily in the meeting. Can you zoom in, TJ? That's about as good as we can do. Wrong one. There you go. Our total calls for service decreased slightly, and I addressed that earlier in the year. There was some things that were going into that area where there had been some issues in the past with some of the things that were thrown in the numbers. But if you scroll down through there, you'll see some things, for example, injury, crashes. That comes, in my opinion, from a reporting issue that we've had in the past where short form crash reports are being done, which are the in-house local forms, because it took an awful lot to complete the crash reports for state reporting, and when we went to Titan, it kind of increased a little bit. That also holds true with some of the other things in this report too, with the reporting process and the way things are viewed and handled. The alarm calls increased again. You see the number of EMS calls that increased. The extra patrol, that's where we actually have citizens who will call and will put their residents, if they're out of town, or business if there's an issue or a problem, and we actually pay a little more attention there with the zone cars, with a little more frequency. Disturbance calls were up. Part of that was the accounting of calls in the past and where they went and how they were recorded. We actually accounted for all of those fireworks complaints calls that we had during the ban. And we had a lot of those because the citizens were very concerned. They didn't want their houses to burn down or their outbuildings to burn down because it was dry. And we had some folks that didn't follow that process. Animal calls, Alderman Broker, that's one of your pet peeves, I know. You see the increase there. It's a pet peeve of ours too because it requires a lot of manpower when we have to sit and wait on another agency to get there for an hour or more with an animal that doesn't need to be left alone, and hopefully it doesn't get to a point where we wind up having to take it out to protect a child or another citizen or one of our own even. Domestics, we've talked about that before. They're up again this year, and I think that again is part of the sign of the times that we're in, economic times for one thing, because that appears to be a basis for a lot of our domestics, that and substance abuse as well. Moving on down to the offenses reported. Now, these are the offenses that were reported to us to dispatch that may or may not show up in the final TBI report, the Tibers report. We should have the first preliminary Tibers report January the 22nd of this year, somewhere thereabouts. So that'll give us an idea. We do not expect those to increase much, if any. But if you look at some of the highlights there, you have to take with a grain of salt some of these because they're very small numbers and a little bit of change looks like a high percentage. The robberies were up and the misdemeanor assaults were up, but our felony assaults dropped just a little bit this year, which is not too bad. The burglaries to residences decreased about a third or a little over a third this year, which is not a bad sign. Business burglaries decreased slightly. Homicides, of course, we had none. Our drug cases actually increased this year, and I think you all are familiar with that. We've served a lot of search warrants over the past couple of months and made some pretty good licks there, and we'll continue working in that area. We got back fully staffed, and folks have been out working very hard. Fraud is up. I think that, again, is a sign of the times because we see a lot of people committing fraud offenses, trying to take money from other people in various means. Kidnapping can be identified as a lot of things, simply just having a situation and holding someone for a period of time, even if it's a family member potentially, can be considered a kidnapping under the code. Runaways are about the same, thank goodness, because they cause us a whole lot of heartache and heartburn for parents and friends and us too, because it's hard to tell sometimes if they're actually runaways or if something has happened. Domestic assaults, they're up, and we talked about that. The rape, sexual batteries, that's a pretty static number there. Thefts are down, overall general thefts. The next one is the one that really hurts, is the suicide and attempted suicides. If you look at it, we had 51 suicides and attempted suicides. The actual ones that we could say were, without a shadow of a doubt, thus far into the process, because we still have some that don't have lab reports back with gunshot residue, things of that nature. We can say without a shadow of a doubt we had at least 13 suicides, and there were actually more. We're pretty sure it was difficult to tell sometimes if it was accidental with an accidental overdose because of medication. Some of it prescribed medication because no one was there. Those are difficult cases for us and EMS and fire and anybody else who responds and goes to help. And it's difficult to deal with, to address. But again, I think that's a sign of the times as well. Vandalisms are down slightly. Harassment and intimidation, that can be a little up, a little down. It just depends. It depends on one person's thought about what's being said or done and how it has reported. Natural deaths were down slightly this year, and those are the ones that we can pretty well deem were natural causes. Generally, those are elderly or those that are terminally ill. Overall, it looks pretty good. Go to the next page. There's one thing that we did do this past weekend. We worked some extra heavy, something we don't normally do and we won't continue normally doing, and that's working the interstate. But we did work and put some additional manpower out there through some grant overtime because of the number of crashes and deaths that had occurred on I-24 in Rutherford County. It was the Governor's Highway Safety Office project, Crash No More on I-24, that ran from last Friday through New Year's. And we got some really good numbers that I'll bring to you Tuesday night just briefly, but quite a few things have occurred. If you look down through some of the charges, you'll notice that DUIs this year are up quite a bit, and that's our alcohol saturation program grant money, plus some focused attention and some increased training for some of the officers that are there, and we're going to do some additional training as well. When you look at the number of arrests, they increased. Across the board, you've got some ups and downs, which will fluctuate year to year normally. Anyway, up and down. When you look at what we have statistically compared to the nation in the past, the trend over the past few years, the city of Laverne is doing quite well, to be honest with you. We're actually holding our own and improving some of that. The reporting is open, it's honest, and it's up front. We're not hiding anything, playing games with paper or numbers. Whatever's there is there. And que sera, sera. And that has been an issue with some law enforcement agencies over the past few years near us, as you all have heard more than once on Nashville television and even national television as well. The citations, when you look down there, the citations are not a priority. That is a necessary evil of law enforcement, enforcing the law. The thing about it is a good aggressive traffic program, it's been proven many times, helps reduce crime in general, a deterrent. Because we all know if somebody's sorry enough that they won't work and they want to steal and rob other people and take from them, they're not going to walk or ride a bicycle to get where they want to go to commit the crime. And to be honest with you, we have a lot of folks coming to Laverne committing crimes from other areas. We had a situation just last weekend with a fellow that allegedly had a weapon in his hand, the way it was reported by a citizen. We never found the weapon, but it wound up in a pursuit. And the guy lived in Smyrna and said he always came to Laverne to do his stealing and so on, because when he got to the county line, going back toward Nashville, the police stopped. They didn't stop, and they got him, so they told him he needed to rethink that idea he had about coming to Laverne anymore. But he stole over $160 worth of meat, shrimp, etc. from Food Line, and had also hit 4 different places and shoplifted clothing around us, in areas around us. So not only was he a multiple offender of driving on revoked, he also had warrants out of Nashville, and he was a convicted felon too. So the guys and the gals are working very hard, as you can see. Any questions on this or anything else?
Only thing you get a call at my house, if it's a suicide, it's definitely an accident.
So you're saying we need to make sure we got people there to investigate thoroughly, right?
Right.
That's very tough. It's very tough on the families. It's very tough on friends and neighbors and the emergency services workers that are there too. That along with the death of a child are probably 2 of the hardest things to deal with, because it's unexplainable. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, last one is 15. And our retreat.
Next Friday and Saturday, we're going to wind up having the retreat right here in this room. We wanted to keep it close to home this year and make it comfortable for everybody. Hopefully some more employees can come out. Hopefully more residents, if they so choose, to come out. We will, there is an actual, they got it up on the screen now, very similar to what we've done the past 2 years, where we've broken it down by department. I know departments like HR will probably go over. I don't know if he's, oh, excuse me, but I know you are. At any rate, but we just basically like we've done, and then we'll break here on Friday night. We'll go to the Civic Auditorium for a little reception, similar to what we did in the last couple of years, and just hopefully have another good, positive retreat.
And also, when you're, and I know y'all be getting your plans ready for the next budget year, but throw in some statistics showing, like, what you planned for last year, for this year, and what you've accomplished. You know, throw in some accomplishments to show that we're going in the direction that your department wants to go in. I mean, you don't have to do anything fancy or, you know, not a big paperwork or anything, but just, I would like to see if we're meeting your needs in each department. Like if we plan at the retreat and the plan, we stuck to the plan that year for you. See what I'm saying? I mean, no big reports, just, you know, I'd love to hear some of our accomplishments and we're meeting those goals for your department. Okay? Okay. Okay, any questions about the retreat?
I do. How concrete is this schedule? I'm asking for a reason, and my reason is I found out yesterday that I'm going to be Mr. Mom Thursday morning through till about 5 o'clock Saturday afternoon. My other boss is going to be in San Antonio for her job. You know, I may have to do a little adjusting. I might have to bump up if that's possible. And then I've always been there. I've tried to the last 2 years be there for all of the presentations. If I don't show up, it's not because I don't like somebody and don't want to. I may have to have a little curly-headed 12-year-old girl with me.
This is just a draft schedule, so, you know, adjustments can be made.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't want to disrupt anybody's days or anything else. I may just have a conflict with trying to get there and get my cook back.
Chief, I can adjust my schedule any way for you.
Thank you.
We got a spot at 9:45 on Saturday morning, if that works.
At 9:45. I could take that.
Yeah, any of those, just get with Tom, Bruce, and they're getting this all together for us. And like I said, anyone that can come back out Friday night just for some food and meet with the different departments. I like it when everybody can get together and visit and talk and get out of here. But just let them know. All right, we're down to Mayor and Alderman comments. We'll start with you, Alderman Green.
All right. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and their New Year has started off good, and I really don't have anything to say except I'm proud that I live in Laverne.
Me too. Alderman Walter?
I just don't really have anything. I woke up, I was woken up New Year's Day at 4:30 with a car in my direct to my driveway, and it didn't get no better as the day went on, but I survived it. And, I'm just doing the best I can, but today's been a good day. That's it.
Okay.
I just want to wish everyone a Happy New Year and want to thank everyone for cards and the condolences, and the city as well for looking out for our family over the holidays or during December. So thank you all again.
That's it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank everyone for being here. My sentiments as well. A Happy New Year. I'd like for us to also continue to remember Guy Dodson Jr. and his family in your prayers. He had an accident over the holidays, and he was our city judge for many years. So please continue to remember him and his family. And I guess I'll see all of y'all back here Tuesday night. Meeting adjourned.